Welcome to the Nuff Said Podcast, episode 28. No Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this time. We're talking Amazing Spider-Man 2, Electric Boogaloo.
The Deuce.
Hi, the Deuce. Spider-Man 2, the Deuce. I am one of your hosts. I am Recycled Rob Southgate, and with me is...
I am Jittery Jack Wendrowski.
I believe you've been jittery before, Jack. And...
Juggling Jonathan.
Juggling Jonathan. Now, you weren't juggling when you were on before, were you?
I was not, and actually I cannot juggle.
Oh, well, spoiler.
So that's the irony of that.
Spoiler, Jonathan can't juggle. But as far as this show is concerned, you are juggling, Jack, you're jittery, and I'm recycled.
We're off to
get
a
into
grand
this.
start.
Yeah, right. So, okay. First of all, I want to set things up here. For people that maybe don't listen to the Nuff Said podcast, when we do something like this, it's a little bit different. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that are going through and criticizing Spider-Man 2 and like trying to do reviews of it. Really, for us, it's just kind of talking it out and having some fun with it. When we did our Thor one, it was the same way. We were a little Thor afterwards. Captain America, we just kind of, ooh, yeah, it was awesome. So if you're looking for like hardcore reviewing, this is not it. But I've got a big but. Did you guys tell? In a couple of weeks, we are going to start our summer series for Nuff Said. What we're going to do is we are going to go through the Marvel Cinematic Universe in order, starting with the first Iron Man, then the Hulk, Iron Man 2, and so forth. And for those shows, those are going to be different than what you're going to hear tonight. So that when we do like the voodoo that we do so well, when we do
You said doo-doo.
Thor 2, it'll be very different than the show we did already. It's going to be more of a breakdown, analysis, talking about all the different elements, the actors, all that kind of stuff. Surprisingly, it's going to sound a little bit more professional. I don't know if that's even possible.
Today's Sesame Street is brought to you by the letter doo-doo.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have to put an explicit rating. Explicit for kindergartners. All right, so let's talk about this thing. I want to flip the cards right away. I want to know, let's start with you, Jack. What did you think of this movie?
All right. Well, other than Catwoman, I'm going to say...
Catwoman.
I just want to... It was funny. On the Roundtable, we had so much fun with the little Catwoman thing. I just thought I'd drop a little... But no, seriously, Spider-Man... You know, I really got away from the whole Spider-Man universe. I mean, almost completely.
Okay. Wait, you didn't see the movies or anything?
I did, but, you know, I really wasn't excited about them. I really didn't feel the continuity.
Okay. Really? So you're talking the Sam Raimi ones you didn't feel it with?
No, I really didn't. I thought they were enjoyable, but it was like, you know, they did a good job. I did enjoy... I did enjoy some of the elements, like where they went with Oscorp, and but this series, I actually went back and saw the first Spider-Man movie of this series on Netflix.
Okay, and
it was like, hey, wow, you know, this is kind of cool. This is like, you know, back what I remember kind of Spider-Man being. He's almost an accidental superhero. He really doesn't quite balance.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't
life.
have been a superhero if he wasn't bit by a radioactive spider, right?
Exactly. I mean, and he still lives with his aunt. You know, he's a younger kid, still trying to get a job at the newspaper.
Right.
You know, that kind of awkward thing about, you know, kind of never really getting the girl. And, you know, you just always feel like, you know, in a couple of years, he's really going to get his life together.
Right. Okay.
And that's exactly the feeling. So after I saw that, then I was really more excited about this movie coming up. And of course, I didn't have to wait. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Good. Excellent. So you flipped the cards there. Good. How about you, Jonathan?
As did I. I really enjoyed it. And more than the first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? You're not going to get any hate from me. I am one of those guys. Basically, if it's a superhero movie, I'm down. I like it. I liked the first Spider-Man. I like the only Spider-Man movie I didn't like was 3. And even that, there was stuff that I liked. I have it on Blu-ray because when Sandman first forms into Sandman, that's awesome. Yeah. When Spider-Man fights Sandman, it's awesome. When Venom shows up, it's a little less awesome. But, you know, it became a mess. It was too many cooks, a lot of garbage. And by that point in that series, I was so over Kirsten Dunst, however you say her name.
Kirsten.
I don't even care. I was just done with her. Whereas in this, oh my gosh, I loved Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and what was funny was when they first announced The Amazing Spider-Man and they announced that it was going to be her playing, that she was in it, I didn't see that it was Gwen Stacy originally, and I thought she was going to be Mary Jane, and her with red hair, spot on for Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she's just, perfect for this. And I thought the chemistry between the two of them was just excellent. I just really enjoyed that part of it.
It was the element of, balancing the fact that she knows who Spider-Man is.
Right.
And
yeah, I like that they didn't play with that. Basically, end of the last movie, she knows what's up. This movie, she's just accepting of it. And she's not some damsel in distress. I liked that a lot.
Right.
Yeah, she's a high schooler that works at Oscorp.
Okay. So let's talk about something weird there. She sure seems to have a lot of power and swagger around Oscorp for some high schooler.
Yes. That's one thing that bothered me, but
Granted, she's valedictorian, but I've been around valedictorians, nobody in this room. And yeah, they're not that poised at 18. I'm sorry.
No.
But you know what? I'll forgive it because Emma Stone is beautiful and charming and seemed incredibly bright. And I'm like, you know what? Good enough. I can live with it.
Their chemistry is very good. I definitely enjoyed that.
Isn't she dating Andrew Garfield in real life?
Yeah, I think so. I think I heard that.
Yeah. Jack, I know you're subscribed to the Star, so I'm sure you probably know all this stuff. But I think I even made an ass of myself by calling it the Star. I'm like an old man with it. But I do believe that the two of them are dating in real life, and they had just fantastic chemistry. Like even if they weren't dating, you're like, oh, these are two that forever you're going to link together because of that.
And she's kind of now that version of every woman. You've heard of like the everyman character,
right?
She's like, she's beautiful, but she's so disarming that
exactly.
She says she seems accessible to almost everybody, almost the same personalities. Did you ever see Zombieland?
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, she was a great character in that, but just as lovable, but kind of,
and super bad too. Super bad too.
I mean,
she was so excellent in that, and once again, she's got the look and everything. You look at her, you're like, yeah, she is definitely a star. She's got that, she's beautiful and draws you in, but she doesn't seem to know that at all. She just seems like your buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
She was, and as Gwen Stacy, I mean, you just are in love with Gwen Stacy through this thing.
Yeah. And how about what's his name that plays her dad that came back?
Oh,
See, all of a sudden he looks over and there he is driving a car, giving him the stink eye.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
I bet it said that in the script too. Dennis Leary gives stink eye. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I got to say, that was a pleasant surprise for me because even though, man, there's a couple of ways to look at this. One is you could say that that's like an overused thing. Like, okay, it's pretty obvious he's there. I even heard one person on a podcast say, was that his ghost? I'm like, oh, God, you didn't get the movie, did you? But I actually didn't find it to be an overused element. I thought that it was a nice device. I thought it was very realistic. Like, he's just seeing her dad everywhere, being reminded of this promise.
Right.
That he broke in 2 seconds.
Exactly. But she was on him and said, this is my choice. I want to be included. This isn't about my father. There's more about this that I'd like to get back to at maybe at the very end. But the whole thing was, it was a promise he shouldn't have ever made.
Right.
Right. It wasn't. And
keep in mind, I mean, he was like 16 when he made this promise, or 17 or something. That's the kind of stuff you do, and you think you can hold on to it. And your life, the way your life works at that age, you know what? 2 months of staying away seems like an eternity. So yeah, maybe he shouldn't have made that promise, but he's a kid,
right? He's Spidey.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
I did like that he grew up a little bit more in this. I loved that he was a high school kid and he really seemed like one in the first movie. In this one, he seemed a little older than he should have been. But I did like that they played it like, yeah, he's just graduated high school. They didn't like try to keep him in high school and then you go, hey man, that's like what's his name from I can't even think of the show, Dylan and Brenda. What was that show?
Oh, no, 90210.
Yeah, 90210, and they're like, 35, and I'm a senior in high school, I'm glad they didn't go that route. Yes, he seems a little bit old to be just graduating. She amazingly doesn't.
Yeah, she definitely looks really young.
She looks really young, and I was pretty astounded. And it was the same thing in Superbad. She seemed like a high school kid, and that one's amazing because Jonah Hill seems like a high school kid in that, and he was not that young at that point either.
Yeah.
That movie did an excellent job with that.
In real life, Emma Stone's like 46, and she looks awesome for that age.
Wow!
Oh,
Holy cow!
She's
Now I'm
actually
really in love with her.
she's actually a vampire.
That's my wheelhouse. 46. All right, I want to talk. I want to get some of the bad out of the way.
All right,
I do. Here's what bothered me. There's a couple of things that bothered me. First of all, not to throw hate her way, but Sally Field was terrible in this.
Yeah.
You really think so? I mean,
Yeah, I have to
Aunt
back
May
you
is
up on
always
that.
kind of awkward.
I really like Sally Field, and in the first one, she wasn't Aunt May to me, but she was Aunt May. She was enough Aunt May that I was like, yeah, she doesn't look like her, but she's got the warmth, and she's such a good actress. I bought into it. In this one, all I wanted her scenes to do were be cut out. I couldn't stand it. I felt terrible.
Yeah,
I'm
she was definitely dragging.
Yeah. Now, I'm hoping that they do something more with Aunt May in the next one and that they give Sally Field something to do, because maybe it was just she didn't have anything to do and she felt like awkward and out of place with it because, man, those scenes with her, there was nothing to do.
Well, and to me, I don't know if this is true, but to me, they kind of changed her role a little bit where, the Uncle Ben is gone and, at this point...
He's converting rice right now, isn't he?
Right.
All right.
And...
bad joke out of the way. First one of the night.
Speaking of bad...
Yeah.
But, they had this, her, big scene was where she was jealous of his parents, and it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, bizarre. See, once again, I just didn't like that whole thing. I also thought that I'm not a big fan of this Mary and Richard Parker storyline, even though they're kind of using that as a backbone.
Right.
And then having her be jealous of it. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not digging it. And I've also heard people theorize that we saw Mary Parker die. At least that's what we believe, but we never actually saw Richard Parker die. How he'd survive a plane crash, I have no idea. But people are, saying, well, they might bring him back. They might find a way to have him show up in Peter's life again. It's like, oh God, don't, please. It's not a deal breaker for me either, because when I get to what I really think of this movie, you'll see it's not a deal breaker for me.
Right. But was it, refresh my memory about how, it was very similar to the Batman, he had let this guy go.
Okay, you're talking the origin story of Spider-Man. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's not similar to Batman. Batman, he and his parents walked out of the movie theater or the opera, whichever version you're reading, and a guy holds him up in the alley and kills his parents right in front of him. Okay? That's the Batman origin story, or the pre-origin story. With Spider-Man, the story is what they showed in the Raimi film, and I thought they did a great job with this. His uncle, they showed it in this too, didn't they? But they didn't emphasize it the same way.
Yeah,
In the Tobey Maguire one, you see the guy run past him, and Peter's like, "I don't have to help."
Right.
And then the guy runs outside and kills Uncle Ben and steals his rice. In this one, they did do that. It
was a lot less impactful.
Yeah, they didn't emphasize it the same way.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
But
if someone holds a gun to you, you say, "Okay, here's my wallet, sir."
Yeah,
Yeah, I do.
here's my problem there. And that might be kind of the crux of the problem with this particular incarnation of Spider-Man. That is a defining moment for Peter. Whereas in this, it seems like his defining moment is that his parents left and he's struggled with that, and then Oscorp grew to power.
Right.
That seems to be it. Whereas really, I like the motivation of it's my fault that the guy who loved me and raised me died.
Exactly.
Then you can add the layer of this, but he never brought up Uncle Ben and being sad at all in this one.
And that's what I was saying, where is this one, like, the emphasis made it like the criminal is what made the superhero. Where
I see what you're saying. So you're actually breaking it down to that.
Right. Whereas, like,
Criminal
they kind
made the
of changed.
superhero, and then in Batman created the Joker. Like, is it one, the chicken or the egg, and how is that working? Yeah. Spider-Man is very similar in that respect, but here, not so much.
Yeah, it's like they kind of, they changed the emphasis, and
Yeah.
I guess that's maybe what the criticism was.
Okay, I want to talk about. I mentioned Sally Field, and like I said, I actually like Sally Field. I feel bad even saying that. She's gotten some hate for this, but I had to throw it out there because, and if we're talking about this movie, we got to talk about what a train wreck that part was. But the thing that I hated, and here's what my fear is. I hated it so much that going forward, when I go to watch this again, it could be something I dread. Kind of like, Jonathan, you're going to hate me for this, in Return of the Jedi, when they did the remastered, remake, special editions, and they put the song in Jabba's palace. That was so horrible, in my opinion, that I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theater. And I loved that movie before that. I even that one gets a little hate here and there. No way for me. It's all love. But that scene was such a deal breaker that it's cringeworthy to me. And there's a scene in this, or a character in this, that is cringeworthy to that degree that I'm a little afraid it might ruin the movie. It was Ashley Kafka. Do you know who that was? You guys know who that was?
Who?
Ashley Kafka. It was the doctor, the Nazi doctor that was torturing Electro.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, watching the movie, I was like, I couldn't place who this character was supposed to be from the Spider-Man universe. I'm like, okay, I'm not an expert. I'm sure there's something from here, but something wasn't making sense. I'm like, Kafka, there's a Dr. Kafka, but I don't remember it being a Nazi. And I don't know if you guys, this made me crazy. It looked like this actor had like thick lipstick on. And all I could focus on was this weird lipstick. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of like if you watch the Marvel one-shots, the very first one, the one with Coulson and Sitwell, and they're just talking.
Right.
Agent Coulson has lipstick on. So whoever did the makeup didn't powder it down. And it looks like if you watch it in a dark environment, like shut the lights off and watch it so you're just getting the projection off your TV. Look at his mouth, and it looks like a Joker mouth because of this lipstick. Same thing with this Dr. Kafka. So that made me crazy, number one. Number two, now here's where it really gets bad. Afterwards, I looked up who Dr. Kafka is. And this makes no sense to me. Dr. Kafka, do you guys know this, by the way, or am I just spouting here?
Spout away. I have no idea.
No idea.
Dr. Kafka is from the Spider-Man comics, okay? Dr. Kafka is based on a real person. Ashley Kafka, Dr. Ashley Kafka, was a woman in the comics who was like a therapist or something, or a scientist character that helped out in the early 90s, okay?
Uh-huh.
And she was absolutely a good person, okay? So why they made Dr. Kafka evil makes no sense. It's also based on a real woman, a certified therapeutic hypnotist. Her name is I'm reading this right now. That's why I said all that. It's Kreda Kafka. I wanted to make sure I had it right on here. Because when I was reading it, I was like, this is unbelievable. This person had worked and counseled one of the Spider-Man writers, J.M. DeMatteis. And this character was created as an homage to her. Yet in the movie, they make it a cliched, lipstick-wearing Nazi who's just there to torture Electro. It made no sense to me, and it bothered me so much. And then when I read this, I'm like, oh, now I don't think I can watch that again.
Well, maybe he's the black sheep of the Kafka family. It's like Billy on Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But they actually called him Dr. Ashley Kafka. Why did they switch it to a man and then switch the character up that way? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's the funny thing is I really haven't heard very much criticism about that, but that is kind of a big faux pas.
Yeah, it's horrible. Now, that was my big bad. I don't know. Do you guys want to go on? Do you have a big bad you want to talk about, or is there nothing as egregious as that to you guys?
Well, I think we started talking about something at really the very end.
Okay.
And
this bothered you? This was a negative?
And
yes. Hang in there, folks, because once we get through this negative, I got lots of love to throw out there, and I got to tell you what I think is wrong with the movie that actually may have corrected the ship. But go ahead, Jack.
Well, my thing was, we knew the entire time that, he had made this promise, right? That he wouldn't endanger Emma Stone's character, and and we go and we see the images of his father, and I just kind of had that feeling like the entire time it was like, this is just so cliche. And of course,
here it comes, right?
And here it comes. You see the final scene. She's falling. He's trying everything he can do and doesn't make it. It's like, so you put me through this like the entire movie,
okay,
and then killed her anyway. Now, I think I did say, dude, you killed Mary Jane.
Yeah. And Jack, I'm going to read a text that I got from Jack. He came out of the movie and wrote, "You can't kill Mary Jane. I call BS." Jack, it was Gwen Stacy.
Well, that's fine, but that's, I don't know. It was just, do it some different way.
Jack, do you know that the death of Gwen Stacy is one of the all-time greatest comic books?
I have no idea.
So you had no idea going into it that Gwen Stacy was a marked person?
Nope. You just
Jonathan,
set me up for
you
this
did,
one,
right?
So.
Yeah, I don't know where I heard it. I just heard it.
Yeah, I wasn't setting you up, Jack. I didn't know that you didn't know.
No, and see, that's the thing. That's why we didn't discuss it, because we were going to kind of fill in on the show here.
Well, yeah, and this is actually a really important point, and I really wasn't setting you up. I wanted to get into this discussion because, okay, after we saw it, I saw it with a group of people. I saw it with, our regulars from Nuff Said that I go to all the movies with the Lee family, with Ruth and Edward and John and William. And afterwards, they were all a little bit devastated by Gwen Stacy's death because they had no idea.
Right.
And actually, like I was over helping my parents the other day, and they started asking me about it. And I said, "Did you guys know?" They had no idea about the death of Gwen Stacy, and they kind of had the same thought you did, like they felt like they were set up. My dad enjoyed it. My mom was, she felt like it ripped her heart out that she died. She's like, "How could they do that?"
Right.
Now,
one thing I knew.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys knew, but originally Mary Jane starring, Shailene Woodley was going to be in it, and
right, they cut that part out.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a clue. A lot of people picked up. Oh, they're going to focus on Mary Jane, focus on Gwen, and concentrate on her because she's probably going to die.
Right. Well, this brings up. This is exactly what I felt was wrong centrally with this movie, and it actually falls victim, in my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion. This is how I kind of saw this. I think that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 fell victim to the same problem that Spider-Man 3 fell to. And everyone's going to go, "Oh, yeah, it was too many villains." It was not too many villains. It was the suits got too involved and forced things faster, because in this case, they're trying to do universe building here. They have Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4 is already greenlit. They're going to do a Venom movie, a Sinister Six movie. I'm sure they're thinking they've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Spider-Man locked up. Okay? So they wanted to get on with the story. That is the main problem. The suits needed to stay out and let this story unfold. Gwen Stacy should not have died until the end of the third movie.
Yeah.
The Green Goblin should have been the Green Goblin. Okay? What we got with the Green Goblin was Chris Cooper laying in bed, and he's got some disease, and we see his scaly, weird hand and fingernails. Those were the grossest fingernails, by the way. Yuck. But then his son, like Dane DeHaan, all of a sudden gets, "Hey, guess what? You've got this same degenerative disease." And then, boom, it's like he starts falling apart. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
What is that? Power of suggestion. And then he becomes the Green Goblin. It even says it in the credits that he's Green Goblin. That's not right. Harry is not the Green Goblin. But okay, they're kind of rewriting history. Once again, I can live with it. But why not take your time with it?
Yeah, I thought that was a little rushed.
And the Rhino, I mean, I get it. You wanted to introduce the character, but I thought that they wasted an opportunity. You know what? Have the Rhino. Even have it be a small part in this one going forward, but tell us the Green Goblin's story. You can do it very differently than Sam Raimi did because he didn't do it right. He didn't do Gwen Stacy or any of that. You know what I mean? What happens is Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy, and then Peter chases him down, and that's when the Green Goblin gets killed. And then Harry avenges and becomes the Hobgoblin.
Right. The son of.
Right. And they didn't do any of that with Raimi, so they could have done it all right here, but instead they glossed over those things and they made it happen too fast. Give us 3 movies. By the end of the 3rd movie, you're so in love with Gwen Stacy, and when she dies, the impact would have been a nuclear bomb. You would have gone, oh my gosh! Like in this, it affected people, but that would have been like Macbeth of superhero movies.
Right. And I'm sitting here.
And Mary Jane could still be there as another character because he knows her before Gwen dies. He's just not in love with her yet.
Right. And we would have gotten that whole transition, which could have been like a quarter of the movie.
And that's the clue that I have that this is what happened. The reason I say this is what you said, Jonathan, that the other girl was cast as Mary Jane. I bet that originally they were going to do that. They were going to take their time with this. And Mary Jane was going to be a character in this universe. She'd even know Gwen. And we can start to meet Mary Jane so that by maybe the 4th movie, something sparks there.
Right.
And you know what? They introduced another love interest in this one. And they didn't say exactly that it's her, but it is her. Felicia was there. Felicity Jones played Felicia. She's the Black Cat. That's another Spider-Man love interest.
So they really lost a couple good opportunities.
They did, and I think it's the suits push this thing along. Because if one thing Mark Webb is, it's a guy who understands how to make kind of a romantic movie. Like he did 500 Days of Summer. He gets how to do that. If you take that central idea and you put it here, it makes a lot of sense in this universe. But you got to take your time with it, and they rushed it. And that's what happened with Spider-Man 3. They rushed it to get Venom in there, and it screwed it up. They rushed this because they wanted to do too much universe building too fast. Let the universe building happen over 2 movies. That's why a lot of people walked out of this and thought it was too long, too.
Yeah, it was 2 hours, 22 minutes.
Cut that thing down to an hour 45 and let Gwen die in the 3rd movie. And guess what? You have a trilogy that is spectacular. Or I should say amazing. Well, spectacular works for Spider-Man.
Right.
Maybe superior.
And I'm looking at I guess a reproduction or a photo of the issue that was the death of Gwen Stacy. And I kind of waited to do the research on this, but and here's another thing. He really blames himself in the movie. It's like it's his fault that she's gone. The conscious
but he does that in the comic too.
Subconscious ghost of his father has been following the whole time. But in the original comic, he's saying, "You're the creep who's going to pay, and for that you're going to die. You killed
Jack,
the woman." Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off there because on that cover, you're right. He's blaming the Green Goblin there, okay?
Yeah.
But in the comics, it was very unclear whether Spider-Man's web snapped her neck and killed her or if she died from the fall.
Yeah.
And in the comics, he did wrestle with this. Did I kill her? Did I cause her death? So they did do well with that in the movie. If you're going by just that cover, he clearly is blaming the Green Goblin there because he's just so angry at the world.
Right.
And that's the other thing. I thought they did a great job with her death. How she did that little bounce.
Oh yeah, the little snap.
Because in the comic, I've read about this. Stan Lee said that the snap was never supposed to be there. There was not supposed to be any question. The idea was that she died from the fall, and that it wasn't the webbing, but that little snap made everybody think, "Oh my gosh, his webbing caught her and it broke her neck." Well, in the movie, it's almost the opposite. The webbing caught her, but its elasticity let her pop on the ground. So the
Right.
question is, was she dead before she hit the ground or not? And Peter's got to live with that.
See, I thought maybe I've heard people say that it maybe was her spine that broke.
Oh, it could be.
You know,
Could
Yeah,
be.
that's
Her neck, her spine. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it's just kind of hard to. I mean, I thought it was initially. I thought it was from the fall, but you know,
But
Yeah.
I didn't get that sense of, yeah, I guess they kind of glossed over him kind of going over, the Green Goblin. And
Well, yeah, that was dumb. The Green Goblin just like got beat up and then left.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. And then, although I gotta say, now let's get into something really good. The scene after this, when it showed Peter standing at the gravesite,
Yeah.
I can't get it out of my head. I thought that was amazing.
Oh, they're going through the seasons.
oh, yeah, that great filmmaking there.
That was just ripping my heart out. And Andrew Garfield's performance of that, yeah, I know. He's just standing there looking at a grave. No, he wasn't. He was mourning, and it was gut wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not just mourning to the effect that he wasn't functioning anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all
Yeah.
he could do.
Oh, and that actually made me scared. I was not like scared, like, oh, boo. But it frightened me that we were going to get into one of these Dark Knight moments where, okay, now he's going to quit for 7 years. And in the next movie, he comes back and he's, oh, now I'm going to fight Bane. I hated that about the last Dark Knight movie, that they made him retire for 7 years and try to come back. I was afraid when Peter was mourning like that, okay, he's going to stop being Spider-Man for like 5 years, and then that's how they're going to explain Andrew Garfield's age in the next movie. But they didn't do that.
And he's going
They
to be
didn't
walking
do that.
around with the cane.
Thank goodness. Oh, God, that was so bad. And I liked that movie, too. Don't get me wrong. When
Yeah,
I'm critical about these things, these are movies I like. But come on, man. How did he get back from wherever he was back to Gotham City with no money and no plane? And why was he retired for 7 years? It's ridiculous.
I guess do you think it's because in the Dark Knight comics that Batman had been so much older, so they were trying to kind of create that with a guy that's
but then
clearly
they had
younger?
They had him just leave. They had him just leave at the end, like he gave up, like, I'm going out to kill myself. Okay, great. Come on. And then you see him in the diner at the end.
Or is it?
Or is it? Yes.
Yeah. But
It would have been funny if they had him order, miss, can I have a glass of I'm sorry, can I have a glass of water?
Thank you. My throat was so backed up.
I had a little something in my throat there.
I was a Batman. Well, my point being was that in the Dark Knight, the character was supposed to be so much older, and here you've got a guy that hasn't even barely hit middle age.
Right.
And I think they had to do some sort of
Something
kind of
to
in
age him.
between.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, anyway, I was afraid that was what was going to happen here, and I think Mark Webb did just a beautiful job with that. And I actually, aside from the stupidness of Rhino stopping his rampage to taunt a little kid.
Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah, come on, this guy would have just stepped on the kid. That was, and this is another thing that killed me in this. I'm a huge Paul Giamatti fan. Like, I can't think of a time that I didn't like Paul Giamatti except this. I thought it was over the top and dumb, and I was like, "Oh no,
Hey,
what are they doing to him?" Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I have hope because they brought him in for a reason. You're not going to have Paul Giamatti playing the Rhino. I could see if you brought somebody in to be the Rhino, and it's going to be this little short thing that's like, oh, we got the Rhino in the universe here. But you brought in Paul Giamatti. You're not going to waste that. I'm sure they're looking at Sinister Six with him, or bringing him back in Spider-Man 3 or 4. Like, they've got plans for him. There's no way. Two little really bad scenes with him. Did you know at the beginning when he pulled his pants down, he had the underwear on? If you look closely, he has little rhinos all over his underwear.
I did not notice.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
I kind of enjoyed, like, as soon as I heard him talk, I knew in the very first part of the movie, I know, oh, that's the guy that's going to be the Rhino.
Yeah, right. Right, yeah.
So
But what did you guys think of? It's funny, we've talked this long and we haven't even brought up the big bad guy. What did you guys think of Jamie Foxx's Electro?
Oh, I thought that was great. I thought, man, the
wait, Jack, I'm going to ask it a different way. What did you think of Electro, and what did you think of Max Dillon?
I thought Max Dillon was almost better.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just oh my god, the awkward. I felt the awkwardness.
Well, I did think of you when I was watching him.
It was like the awkward pause. Humanified.
It's humanified.
I just made up a word.
You're going to be getting a doctorate.
There you go.
Mr. Wodgrowski, what is humanified? I made it up.
I made it up.
Hold on.
That's what
made it up.
that's what my doctorate is in. It's made up words.
Made up words.
Fancy words that sound very fancy, but have no literary attachment whatsoever. No, I mean, at first I was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" You know, just that perfect awkwardness. It's like
so you really liked his character as Max Dillon. Okay.
I really did. I enjoyed
you were buying into it. What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I was not. I mean, Jamie Foxx is always great and all the stuff he does.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of his performance as the schizophrenic guy and the soloist. I mean, he was just total out of touch. Seems like in life. I mean, he's
that was something that I think kind of saved that for me was what was his Farrell or something to the music. Do you know who I'm talking about? The guy that did the music, the music for Electro. He's a famous musician right now. I want to say it's Farrell. Is that how you say his name?
I think is it Pharrell?
Pharrell? Yeah, whatever.
Pharrell.
I don't know. Anyway,
but man,
he did the music, and I thought that showed the schizophrenia. Like you heard what he was hearing. It was like, hear the spider. I thought that was cool, man.
Oh yeah. I
did like that.
How about the Blue Danube on the electric converters as Spider-Man was bouncing off of them?
Yes. Oh, that was the music. Yeah, I thought they did an excellent job with that. Although I do have to say, they still don't have a recognizable theme for Spider-Man.
That is true.
Think about it. When you hear the John Williams score from Superman, I hear that Superman theme, and that is Superman.
It's funny.
They kept playing the 60s Spider-Man thing throughout the movie, which I found a little annoying, but that was so much more recognizable. You walk out of the movie, you can sing that. You can't sing squat about that. What is that noise?
Oh, I was vibrating.
Oh, gross.
Oh.
You should say you were jittering.
I was jitterbugging. I was getting Twitter alerts here, and I buzzed.
All right. All right. I think Electro's trying to get in touch with you.
That's true. I did say I was jittery, Jack Wendrowski, this time.
So, we did mention, I just mentioned Superman. That's actually what I thought of when he was Max Dillon. Now, it was an over-the-top performance as Max Dillon. He was very like a kid's version of a nerdy, geeky guy. But I think that what happened to him as Electro, that because of that soundtrack, it actually did save that for me, where I did see the schizophrenia more. The thing that kind of, it was like I'm schizophrenic about this. I actually enjoyed it and almost hated it at the same time. When he was Max Dillon, every time he showed up, it sounded like Otis's theme from Superman. And I'm like, I kind of hated that, but you know what? I actually kind of like that. Like if I was doing it, I might do the same thing. If I was the guy going, I'm putting this movie together, I might end up doing that same thing because it actually kind of is cool, but I hated that.
Well, it was overdone.
Maybe that's just it. Maybe it needed a little less of that. And it was more distinct than Spider-Man's theme.
Yeah, the only theme that I came away remembering was the classic Blue Danube. And that was the only memorable musical moment of the whole film for me.
Well, that and Spider-Man. They did that over and over and over.
Yeah, but it was more like a side afterthought, like a sound effect rather than a theme.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it wasn't really a theme. The most recognizable thing was Blue Danube, and then the Otis theme was kind of like if you heard somebody play that now and they said something about Spider-Man, you're like, oh yeah, that's got to be Max Dillon.
Yeah, but for all the movies where they've created the villains, my favorite part about this was how they really took it, and you saw the evolution and how Spider-Man made his own supervillain. It was, he had been really all he really had done is be nice to the guy.
Yeah.
And really all it did was
Batman. Batman dropped him into a vat of acid. He becomes the Joker. In this one, Spider-Man didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Other than he wasn't living up to whatever this was in Max's head.
Right.
And really, it wasn't until the sniper shot him that Electro turned on Spider-Man. He thought he was betrayed by him.
Right. And, it was, well, the crowd started to kind of boo him. It was like a wrestling match.
Yeah, right.
They just decided, well, he's the bad character. Oh, Spidey's the good guy. And of course, he also blames Spider-Man for everybody not liking him.
Right.
And
yeah,
just
that
that.
little off-footed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little too oversimplified, but you have this like very childish mentality.
Right. He was like he had his birthday card when Gwen Stacy saw him with his birthday card. Yeah, I mean, like all that stuff. It's like, yeah, he was like a big kid. Now, are you supposed to believe that he designed the electric grid for the city and he's like that much of a kid?
Well, I know people that they are such geniuses in their other area that there's just nothing left for other things. And,
Okay, I can be down with that.
But I think I agree with you. What happened is they just oversimplified it, and you almost it could feel a little off-putting to say, you know what, be a little more subtle. I'm a grown-up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the effects as Electro. I thought that that blue skin stuff was fascinating.
Did anybody else think Dr. Manhattan?
I did. I'm so glad we didn't see his wang, because remember Dr. Manhattan, I was like, oh, and I had just watched Django Unchained, and I'm like, I think I've seen enough of Jamie Foxx's undercarriage. So I was really happy that it didn't appear from Electro.
It's like every Will Ferrell movie.
Right. Oh, yeah, I think I've seen enough of Will Ferrell.
No matter what movie
Literally.
he's in, at some point he's losing the pants. He just knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
Maybe Jamie Foxx is setting up a similar thing here.
So we were talking about the music. I just want to point out it was Pharrell Williams, so I didn't know how to say his name, but that's what it was. Johnny Marr and Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a major player. How can he not come up with a theme for Spider-Man?
I forgot he was doing it.
Iconic.
Maybe Hans is the one that came up with the Blue Danube being like a German kind of thing.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I want some Blue Danube in the movie. Yeah.
Since we have Kafka,
right? Oh man, that Kafka. Let's not even bring that up. Now,
that is kind of sad.
I was looking at some of the cast here, and like Flash Thompson was uncredited in it, but he was in it. There were a bunch of characters that were uncredited in this, or that were in it that are important to the Spider Universe. One of them was Flash Thompson. Now, Flash Thompson, I don't know which way they're going to go. Are they going to do it where Flash Thompson becomes Venom? Because in the comics, he becomes Venom at some point. Are they going to follow that when they do the Venom movie, or what are they going to do with that? Alistair Smythe was in it. He's the one that created the Spider Slayer.
Well, they got to say, I mean, they've blown so much for the third movie. These are a lot of times I've seen where Marvel has given like these big little hints.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking is are they going to go that route? I mean, Flash Thompson is important to the young Spider-Man story. They haven't really done much with it here, but it makes me wonder, are we being led that way? Is it going to be one of those things that later on you're watching the movie and you're like, oh man, he gets infected, he becomes Venom, and because he loses his legs or something, and then the Venom thing makes it so he can walk, and it's just this crazy story. And then, like I said, Alistair Smythe is in it. He's the one that he hates Spider-Man and makes the Spider Slayers. And, that could be an interesting storyline that we get out of this. Another thing, I was reading an interview with Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And did you guys see those viral things that they put out for the movie?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, they did these viral things, and they were like Daily Planet headlines and that, and it talked about other characters. And what it's saying, what I've read is this is kind of leading to Sinister Six. It's like giving you clues as to where they're going with the Spider Universe. Well, in one of them, they talked about Professor Miles Warren, and I guess I didn't catch it, but I guess he's referenced in the movie, like they were coming from his class, or maybe she says it in her speech, but she mentions Professor Miles Warren. He becomes the Jackal, who's a mad scientist that creates all the clone stuff. So are we leading towards the Scarlet Spider and clone stuff here? We don't know. And if that's the case, guess who he resurrects, or at least uses as a disguise? Gwen Stacy. So they ask, is she dead? And she's like, I don't know. or is this the last time you're going to work with these people? She goes, I don't know. Is it? And they said, wait, what are you talking about? And then it goes into this explanation about, there's a possibility that because it was actually Carnage that disguised himself as Gwen Stacy to get close to Peter. And I guess in those viral things, it also had Venom. It had stuff about the guy that becomes Venom in there. And it had, who else did I mention? I mentioned Spider Slayer, Venom. Oh, the professor is he becomes the Jackal. And that was one of the headlines that was in the viral stuff too. So I mean, they were doing a lot of universe building, and those could all be just Easter eggs, or they could be giving us hints as to where this franchise is attempting to go. I mean, I'd be down with that stuff. I don't know about you guys.
So, it did surprise me. What was the extra at the end of the movie?
Okay, big controversy about this, Jonathan. Let's hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so are we talking about like the one that was taken out, or are we actually talking about the?
Wait, what was taken out?
Oh, well, there was an end credit scene they were supposed to have.
What? I didn't know this.
Yeah, and you had.
Or should I do my Andrew Garfield? What?
Okay. Yeah, it was something showing like I think they showed like if you look it up online, I think they have like a picture and it's like I think they show like Doc Ock or something and some kind of box with a head in it.
What?
Or something.
Oh, okay.
It did
that's not what we're
me.
talking about, but I'm going to type that in right now while we're doing the podcast. I'm talking about the one that showed.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. So, it was just the whole. Yeah, that was definitely cool. But we know what it's. Well, we know it's not related at all.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna. So it's not related. Jack, what did you think about that ending? Did you think that was tying it into Spider-Man somehow?
It was. I guess I kind of thought that somehow it was going to be kind of gone that way. One of the things that did surprise me was that was the only one that they had, because so many of these movies have had 2 or 3 of them, and of course everybody left, and so after they when they started showing the characters, I actually started Googling them on my phone because I was the only one left in the theater. And it was like, hey, wait a minute, it's the Marvel extras. But yeah, I did think that it's like, I guess they're doing their own thing, because all you saw was them, kind of in this army facility and breaking out.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's like where.
Yeah, it didn't make. Yeah, it didn't make sense that it was there. So okay, I'm gonna just clear it up, because there are people like I don't know if. One thing I can tell you is my parents had no idea. They were like, "Hey, are you excited that Spider-Man's going to be in the next X-Men movie?" And I'm like, "No, that's not it."
That's a scene from the next X-Men movie.
Right. It was actually a scene from the next X-Men movie, and it was, from what they've said, the reason it was there is Mark Webb was under contract with Fox. In order to let him do this for Sony, do Spider-Man for Sony, they had to make a deal that they could put basically a commercial at the end of Spider-Man 2. Which I think was weird, because the preview before the movie was so freaking awesome, and that thing at the end was a little confusing. Like,
yeah, we had no context for it.
Yeah, it was weird. Now, that all being said, because that's what the official word is and everything.
Yeah, same thing I've heard.
I actually am a little more conspiracy minded.
All right, let's hear it.
I do believe that that's what we were seeing, but I also really believe that was a testing of the waters. If they put this at the end and there's enough fan reaction, maybe it's worth them making some kind of deal to bleed characters. Nobody's bleeding over into the MCU. It's not going to happen, okay? Even though, I shouldn't say that. In the first Amazing Spider-Man, in Avengers, they had worked out a deal that you were going to see the Oscorp building in the skyline of New York. But it didn't happen. They just couldn't make the CGI thing all happen quickly enough, because it all happened in the 0 hour. But that put it very close to that. There's a lot of rumblings of bleeding over. And I was actually reading an article about this where they were talking about the people that the ones who could actually broker the deal, it's only like 3 guys, one from each studio, that are actively trying to figure out, can we make a deal to make this happen? So when we saw that, my first thought was, yep, This is a commercial at the end. It has everything to do with Mark Webb doing this. But then as I thought about it, I thought, there is a possibility, because why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just say, we want our thing attached to the beginning of your movie as a preview with maybe a, continue your Marvel experience in X-Men Days of Future Past or something at the end. Putting that clip in there, put them on the screen. It puts them on the Blu-rays. It put those characters in that universe, so to speak, or in the minds of the consumer that way. And why wouldn't that be the way to test the waters? Let's see if there's fan reaction, which there was. Everyone's talking about it, excited that Spider-Man and X-Men are bleeding over. Well, maybe not, but maybe it's worth exploring that somebody makes a cameo.
I mean, I guess it gets kind of illegal issues. It gets kind of complicated. And the thing is that
right, but that's what I'm saying. There's only like 3 people that have to work out the deal. If they work it out, there is no legal issue. You sign contracts and you figure out here's how the pay works. Here's what this is. It's a buyout, whatever it is.
But I don't see these movies making any more money if X-Men appears in Spider-Man or vice versa.
You know what? That's a great point. But if they want to try to merge universes, it's actually not for X-Men, in my opinion. It's Fox testing the waters to see what's going on there, because Spider-Man is important to the Fantastic Four story. And if you can get Spider-Man to bleed over into Fantastic Four, even for a short stint in one of the movies, that would draw audiences to the Fantastic Four in a big, bad way.
Yeah, that's a possibility, because after those last 2, I'm not sure how this new one's going to do.
Well, they're rebooting and they're trying something. I'm hoping that they get it right. I think they've done a great job generally with the X-Men movies. So, I'm hoping that they get the same thing right with Fantastic Four. I'd like to see them do Fantastic Four right. I just don't know.
Yeah, Dane DeHaan. No, wait.
No, he's in Spider-Man 2.
No. Oh, no. Well, the director from Chronicle is directing. Who directed
Yes, and that's a really big plus.
The one thing I've been saying a while is, this is Marvel, and at some point, all these things have been interchangeable throughout their history, through the comics. Things kind of interchange all the time, and I've said for a while, I think Marvel's going to do it at some point.
Yeah, it's all how they work it out legally and whether the money can be worked out. I mean, there's a lot that has to go into it, but at the same time, I mean, when they're making $1 billion minimum every time they open the door at the MCU, it makes sense to try to bring some of these characters in. Or for the MCU, it almost is inconsequential. I mean, they've got so much to play with here.
Yeah, they got so many
they're
characters.
making major films out of characters that, before, I mean, think about it. Before all of this, do you think a Thor movie would have made the type of money it makes?
No, I mean, just look at the comic book. I mean, people would have laughed at that. Your general audience would have just laughed at that.
Right. But they got the formula right. I mean, as I've said on here before, I am so freaking excited for Daredevil. I can't stand it. I want to see that happen. I think there's just so much potential. They don't need Spider-Man in that universe. They don't need X-Men in that universe. I'd like to see X-Men, and I'd love to see Wolverine in the Avengers. I mean, that would be just amazing. But I doubt that's ever going to happen.
Right.
But Spider-Man bleed over into Fantastic Four. Maybe they use, villains or whatever bleeding over into Spider-Man, or Spider-Man has to team up with Wolverine for part of a movie. That would be pretty hot. Especially if they're going to relaunch, because at some point Hugh Jackman can't be Wolverine.
And he's talking about,
he's going to have a walker that retracts out of his arms.
Right.
So when that happens and you want to reintroduce the new thing, just like they're doing with Batman Superman, have Wolverine in the Spider-Man movie. Oh, you might as well take my money now. That's how you relaunch it. It's one way to relaunch it. By the way, that Batman Superman thing, as much as I know I'm going to see it and I know I'm going to be all excited, when I step back from oh my gosh, Batman and Superman, that thing's going to be a train wreck, man. I think they got it wrong. The whole thing, how they're calling it the birth of justice or something now. Have you seen that?
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, okay. I get it, because the next movie's the Justice League. I get it. Very subtle. And if it's Superman, if it's Man of Steel 2, why is it called Batman v Superman? How about just making it Batman versus Superman and forget that it's Man of Steel 2? Go ahead and make a Man of Steel 2.
Yeah,
the whole thing is just a big train wreck. And Batman versus Superman was a great comic book, or Batman Superman was a great comic book. Do that. and lead into your Justice League. The whole thing is just like a train wreck. It's a
we'll
train
see.
wreck. So as much criticism as we had to throw some out here, that one I don't even want to talk about because it's going to be Mr. Negative. Although, I'm going to see it and be like, oh, Batman was sweet. But come on. Come on. So have you guys got any other things you want to bring up? I mean, I actually did enjoy the movie. I think if they cut it down, if they had trimmed that fat and made it 3 movies and focused it better, I think it would have been just an amazing or a spectacular series. But I think there was a misstep. But I definitely think they can get it back in 3 and make 3 and 4. If they take their time with those, they could really build something cool.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to them, expanding, trying to create their own universe.
Yeah, I mean, I was always a huge Spider-Man fan, so I mean, there's a lot to draw from here.
Yeah, I used to watch the '90s cartoons, so
yeah, those are great. Oh,
Yeah.
I watch those '60s cartoons; those are awesome.
So are they setting up? I guess you think they're setting up with when you see the little thing at Oscorp where all the suits, and obviously one is Doc Ock.
Yeah, they were really setting you up that all this is stemming from Oscorp, and that scene where you saw the Vulture's wings, you saw the octopus arms, that was all setting you up for Sinister Six. And actually, Jonathan, let me address it right now. I just looked it up. That end credit scene that's missing, it's not Doc Ock in a box. Ooh, I like that idea, Doc Ock in a box. It's Norman Osborn's head cryogenically frozen.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Now I'm interested. Why they cut that out? They could have put 2 end credit things. They showed the man in the shadows. They told us who he is in this one, Gustav Fiers. They showed him walking away. He walks up to Norman Osborn's head and says, "Wake up, old friend," and then he walks away. Oh yes, there is a cryogenically frozen Norman Osborn head that is gonna wreak havoc. I am in for that movie.
Awesome.
It seems terrible, and then it's like one of those things where you're like, "Oh, that's so cheesy and so wonderful all at once."
Didn't they already have that in an episode of Futurama?
Yes, maybe they'll have his head fight Captain Kirk's head.
Or President Nixon. That's
President
my favorite
Nixon.
one.
Yeah, the Nixon head. Oh yeah. Oh man, I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up, Jonathan. That's so awesome. So are we done? Did we talk this one out okay?
Yeah, I think my jitters are about done.
All right. Anyone have anything more they want to bring up?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
No, I ran out of details and facts about in the second minute.
I guess one thing,
Excellent.
I guess I just wish we would have had a little more Green Goblin. I still like Jamie
I don't think we
Foxx's-
had Green Goblin. I think that was a mistake.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, they almost kind of went straight to Hobgoblin.
But yeah, I mean, and also, did he get when he got that changed? Did he get hair gel or something? Because his hair dramatically changed.
No, I
and
do
what was
prefer
the,
that
with the
over
green
that.
teeth?
Yeah, it was odd.
Though I do.
I'm a
that
super
over the
villain
Halloween
because I
mask.
don't brush my teeth every day.
Wait, you guys both like, what did you say, Jonathan?
Oh, well, I do prefer that over the Halloween mask and the Raimi.
Yeah, the Raimi one with that like metal masking, that was weird. Although, God, you had to love him. That great voice.
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice right now, but he was great, but I didn't like the character design.
Right.
Whereas this character design, I did like it better, but I wanted to see Chris Cooper playing Green Goblin. I think that would be totally badass.
Yeah, I do. I think I think the Raimi series did a better Goblin, but
So, do you think that's what they're going to do here? I just had this thought. If they're doing that head thing, do you think they're going to have Dane DeHaan be the Green Goblin and they're going to flip it and they're going to resurrect him in another body, maybe in that suit or whatever, and he becomes the Hobgoblin? Because in the comics, when the Hobgoblin appeared, Spider-Man couldn't figure out who the heck this was. And it took a long time before he figured out it was Harry. Could it be that they bring him back? He's the Hobgoblin, who is much nastier than the Green Goblin, and then you find out it's Chris Cooper later?
ooh,
That is interesting.
that would be cool.
I'm down with that idea.
Hey, let's patent it.
Let's patent it. Yeah, we'll make that one happen. All right. I think we're done. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been our review, discussion of Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, let's be specific about that. You can find past shows Enough Said on our website at www.southgatemediagroup.com. You can follow us on Tumblr, which on Tumblr we are Southgate Media Group. Just type that in and you'll find our Tumblr page, which has been a lot of fun. We're on Twitter at Enough Said Podcast, at R Southgate. Jack, you're at
J1 Grosky, WENGROSKY as in Yankee.
And Jonathan, do you have a Twitter you want to plug there?
Yeah, it's J.E. Bell 49er.
Awesome. And you can find us on Facebook, Enough Said Podcast there. And did we hit everything? Find us on Stitcher, find us on iTunes, find us on Podbean and BlackBerry and Zune and like everything, Podomatic. We're on all of them. And if there's one that we're not on, let us know and we'll get on there because we want to bring the shows right to where you are. Oh, we're on SoundCloud too. And in fact, I kind of let SoundCloud lapse because you have to enter each show. But I'm going back through and I'm entering every single episode of every one of our podcasts.
All right.
So yeah, we'll be up to speed and just get in the conversation with us. You can email us also at southgatemediagroup@gmail.com. There you go. I think we're done. Once again, thanks for listening, everybody. We are going to continue this throughout the summer. We're going to do the MCU movies, although the next couple of weeks are going to be a little funky. I think we're doing a roundtable next week, maybe the next week. I think we're going to try and get Days of Future Past in here, and then we're going to start in with the MCU. So that's it. I am Recycled Rob Southgate.
I am Jittery Jack Grosky.
And I'm Juggling Jonathan.
Jack, you were kind of Peter Brady with the little voice crack there, too.
Yeah, I'm going through puberty.
I think I was there when you did the first time, and yuck.
Wow,
okay, that's it, everybody. Let's call it a night. Enough said.
Enough said.
Enough said.
Excellent. If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.